Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Monster Report, a show highlighting those entertaining creatures of film history. I'm your host Nick Adam Poling, and I am here via Skype with a few guys that you'll be very interested in checking out at G-Fest and seeing some new merchandise that they have to offer you and some new updates. I have with me Mr. Tim Price. Hello, Tim.
Hey guys, what's going on, Nick?
Not much, just here in Indiana, chatting it up with you and looking forward to seeing you at G-Fest. We've also...
a couple days away, we're chomping at the bit, and up here in Minnesota with a couple good pals.
All right, we also have Alan O.W. Barnes. Hey, Alan.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yep, it's good to see you too, and we're going to see some of the great work that you have been doing for the new novel, but we'll get to that in a few. We also have, of course, Mr. Sir Robert Scott Field, or M11.
You, can you see me? I'm running too fast.
He's doing his special effects.
Konnichiwa, Nick. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good to see you again. I'm good.
Yep.
I'm here in Minnesota too. Yeah.
Yep, and you're Chicago bound here soon, but you've been all over the place, of course, between Japan, the United States, back and forth, and G-Fest, of course. Everyone just knows to rely on seeing you there. It wouldn't be G-Fest without you.
I appreciate that. Let's hope everybody else does too.
Well, I do. So
Thanks, buddy.
let's talk some Big in Japan. I'm going to show it to both my cameras there. Of course, we've got our first novel, and of course, you can also get the soundtrack. You can also get it in audio form too, correct? If you're not
Absolutely.
a reader, yeah.
You can get the whole unabridged book on a thumb drive, which is a little over 10 hours long. The soundtrack that you held up is the underscore to the audiobook, and I wrote all of the music except for one song, Kashmir, which is Tommy Lynn Taylor's favorite song. So, the audiobook is great. And of course, what just came out last week, Bum Bum Bum, Big in Japan, Book 2, Power.
Awesome, yeah, and we're seeing that cool artwork, great artwork on the first one too, of course, and we talked, of course, last, it's almost been 2 years now, about book number one.
Yeah, it's been 3, Nick. So, no, did we talk when we did the audiobook and the CD, or when the first book came out?
Well, it was after the first book, because it was post G-Fest 2014, and I think the book came out in 2013, correct?
You're right. You're dead on, bud. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
And so we had the chance to talk a little about that, your inspiration for writing it, because of the music background, the love of kaiju, and a little personal touch from your own life that you wanted to put in that. And can we maybe expect a little of some of the similarities in book number 2?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the whole Big in Japan story, the story is about it's primarily about 2 musicians who leave Los Angeles, and they go on a live house tour throughout Japan, and they do it as a last-ditch effort to try to save their band in their bar band caliber. And they're like us. They're guys who've been playing for a long time, been playing in bands, love what they do. And in the midst of the whole thing, they wind up in the middle of a battle between a giant robot mech and a kaiju. And in the process of this, they wind up getting offered the chance of a lifetime for anybody who ever wanted to be a real rock star like me, where they say, we'll give you fame, we'll give you fortune, we'll give you limousines, we'll give you chicks, we'll give you world tours and platinum albums, but you got to drive this robot and fight kaiju. That's the exchange. And I spent 20 years on the road playing in different bands, in different levels, and I lived in Las Vegas for over a year playing, and a lot of stories in the first book were real stories of things that happened, we'll just say, just to me on the road. And of course, like you and like Alan and Scott and all of our friends at G-Fest, our huge passion for kaiju and a lot of things Japanese. And so it was so fun to kind of combine all these elements of 2 things that I love so much and put it together in one cohesive story. And what's really fun about it is it seems a lot of people like the idea, and the first book has sold. We've sold a couple thousand copies worldwide, and so it's been great. And the second book is a lot of the same stuff. I wrote the book. It took me 3 years to write it. There were a few life-changing events that happened to me while I was writing the book. My father passed away, and there's a lot of things in the book that sort of mirror that. And there's also a lot of things in the book that sort of mirror the after fact of being a rock star, which can sometimes entail stuff like rehab. And so the story starts with one of the main characters, who is the gentleman in the middle. His name is Nathan Fox. And in the first book, this character right here, Tommy Lynn Taylor, he was the protagonist, and the story was told from his point of view. He's looking at Alan's great artwork. He's the one in the foreground playing the guitar on the cover, and Nathan is just behind him. But in the second book, Nathan is the protagonist, and the story's being told from his perspective while he's battling his demons like addiction and alcohol. And the monster, the Daikaiju, is a metaphor for Nathan's drinking. So he's actually battling himself throughout the book.
And it's interesting that you have that metaphorical, pouring yourself in. I'm sure you've kind of had the chance to talk about this in the sense that since we are kaiju fans and we understand the Japanese need to cope with Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and filmmaking is a good, bad, or indifferent. It is a way that they use to cope with that and give it kind of a real world perspective, almost like if you were to see that as a giant monster, what would it look like? And so instead of, taking Hiroshima, which doesn't necessarily affect you personally, you have taken your personal life and poured it onto the page.
That's great. That's a great point. And kind of talking about that is, I mentioned two things that are my life. I love kaiju like a lot of us do, and I'm a musician by trade. And on the whole part about Nathan and his struggles is I'm 23 years in recovery. So I've been clean for 23 years, alcoholic addict. So once again, a lot of my trials and tribulation come out through Nathan. And it's kind of funny because in the first book, he's a lot like me pre-sober, but in the second book, he's me trying to be sober and trying to live a sober life. And what you said about, about how the Japanese cope, I obviously we'll never understand, and I know, but I tried to do something in the book that it was kind of a role reversal where I don't want to give anything away in the first book, but in the first book, something happens in the United States as a result of one of the Japanese robots exploding on American soil. So what happens in the second book is the new kaiju is born in America due to an explosion in the USA caused by the Japanese.
Really?
So it's sort of a 180 on Godzilla coming from the United States. And a lot of the book talks about how something like this could go horribly wrong. But what I really like about the book is instead of the whole thing going horribly wrong, there's a lot of friction, and I don't want to give anything away, but it really proves that what it really comes down to is us being as one and being together. There's no you, there's no them. And a line that it says in the book is that when bad things happen in war as a result of bad men, it results in one thing: good people all around the planet of every nationality dying.
I see. And but that's only a taste of what, of course, we want to get into it ourselves to get that book, get those details. And what I'd imagine you'd probably say is that to get to know a little bit about Tim, get into the page and you'll see a little about you, but also be entertained, at the same time, because you get to know these characters through it, and characters are what make this story. It's not necessarily, go ahead.
My wife has been asking me for years, I'd really like you to write your biography, and the idea to me is, I'm just another guy, whatever. I don't want to do it. What I like doing is kind of taking the stories of my life and putting it in a fictional surrounding. It's like, yeah, my life it's interesting, but it's pretty tame compared to this guy who goes through the same things that I did and the same struggles as I did. But he powers a mech and fights kaiju. I can't compete with that. So, plus, I don't want Alan to draw me. Hey, look at me. You don't want to see this. You want to see this. You want to see Alan drawing these guys. You want to see the kaiju that he draws, and that's one of the beauty things about Big in Japan. And I got to tell you, I'm going to segue just with that because I want you guys to see. Alan and I have known each other for over 20 years, and we have, in some way, shape, or form, done so many projects together. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say it here in front of everybody, I have learned so much about everything I do because of my friend Alan. He's been my mentor for 20 years, and he's younger than me. He's helped me with my writing. He's helped me with my music. He's helped me. He was one of my, one great pleasure for me is he was one of my teachers when I went to music school. And then a few years later, he made it possible for me to join the orchestra he was in, and we've always played together on and off, and it's been very gratifying. I'm tickled that he's so much a part of this, just like Scott. But I want you to see some of these drawings that he does because he's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Before I do that, I do want to say that as kind as that was for Tim to say, the very first time I met Tim, he was giving me a job.
Yeah.
So let's just be clear about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was really excited to be. I have been very excited to be a part of Big in Japan, both books, and I'm really pleased with some of the stuff that I got to draw. One of the things I really like about working with Tim is that he always gives me plenty of things to draw in one image.
Yeah.
And when we actually have conversations about it, I probably yell at Tim a bunch like, "How am I supposed to put stuff on one page? I don't get it, buddy." But then eventually, I get an idea for it, and the work always comes out better than anything else I'm working on because Tim pushes me. So I'm really excited to do it. So this one though, the new book, he gave me this series of challenges. It was he wanted 4 of the characters and the Duke, which is the big cowboy robot they all fight in. By the way, I think that's one of the coolest things about Big in Japan is the fact that they're fighting in a giant cowboy robot as opposed to something that we see all the time.
Oh yeah.
And the kaiju in this one is a giant spider. I'm not going to tell you too much about it because it's not my gig to be able to spoil.
Uh-huh.
But lots of fun. And here are a couple of the interiors from it. This is the Duke, the big cowboy robot shooting at our lovely spider. Tim gave me this challenge to try to draw these things he calls the death machines. I ripped off Mad Max shamelessly.
Okay. You heard it here. Yeah.
But yeah, so when Tim and I work on these things, he likes to say that he gives me these like.
Have you shown him that one yet?
I did. I just did.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna put this in total perspective. Okay.
Okay.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the pictures that I give to Alan. I have all the original concepts that I came up with. Okay. So this one, Alan, I got this idea. In the book, there are these vehicles. They're evacuation vehicles. And I think it'd be really cool if you had the vehicle going down the street with some destruction and a spider in the background. So I draw that.
This is good.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Just like a 3-year-old. And Alan does this.
Love it. It gets you excited for the book.
A 3-year-old, doesn't it?
Okay, so then I said I have an idea for the cover, which I thought was a great idea for the cover until he showed me his design for the cover, and I went, yeah, that's a lot better. But what he did was he took my idea for the cover and he actually did one of the full-page spreads. So here's how I do my cover. It's like this. You know, you got Scott right there. You got Jack. You got Akira Takarada, and the Duke's on his back, and he's shooting. The new monster is a giant arachnid named King Taraxian.
Okay.
So there's that. Okay, everybody see that?
Yep.
Now look what Alan does.
Yeah.
And then here's like my of course my cover design instead. But it's still I really appreciate when Tim gives me all that information. The other thing that I make him do is I make him send me excerpts from the novel. Obviously, he tries to get away with just sort of telling me what to draw, and then I always come back with, man, I really would love to read what he actually wrote for the image. And most of the time that works, but every once in a while, I end up with something that I think is beautiful, and I make Tim change the novel for it.
And I am not interrupting Alan to try to get more airtime. I'm trying to show people just how good this guy is. Here's the last one I'm going to show you. So I have there's this giant carrier in the book that is part of the government agency called the Earth Intelligence Organization, affectionately known as the EIO, affectionately known by Nathan Fox as the EIEIO. And so they have this giant carrier, and what happens is, it's submersive. It's a submersive craft as well. So I said, here, Alan, here's a picture of the craft underwater. And mine just looks like a foot. And then here's what Alan draws.
Hang on.
Let's get that in there. Oh, man. Yeah.
Now where's the foot?
Yeah, here's mine.
Yes.
So that thing is what I drew.
Oh, that's
But what's cool about that is, what's cool about that is, of course, you kind of know now what you're going to get with Alan when you give him a little bit of straw to work with that he can weave into some gold, right?
Well, I'd like to see what he'd do if I gave him something like this.
Oh gosh,
yeah. That would be really something.
Alan drew this too.
Oh, he did, really? Wow.
We're just kidding, folks.
Yeah, just take credit.
Just kidding, Paramount.
But
so anyway, working with Tim is always a pleasure, and this book was no exception, and I was really pleased with the way it came out. I thought they did a great job on the design and layout of the book after I gave them all those silly illustrations.
Now, with book number 2, Alan, did you find yourself more or less collaborating with Tim actively, or did it really come from his scribbles and his on his menu one day? Or tell me about that.
This one was actually a little bit more challenging than the last one because I've actually been in Hong Kong for the last year. I just moved back to the States a few weeks ago. And the last novel, Tim and I were able to collaborate on really easily because we meet at a Starbucks. Yep. And I pretty much sit there with my sketchbook and I'd doodle for a little bit and say, needs to be bulkier. I'd do my best to comply.
Needs to be more kaiju.
Yeah, exactly. I have too much of a superhero background, right?
It looks too good.
So this time we really had to figure out how to work through email and through FaceTime, and I think it was a little bit tricky in the beginning, but after we worked out a few of the bugs, I think went really well. There were still a handful of misunderstandings, but my favorite one was that Tim was telling me about this game called Gigantics, this model thing.
Do you remember the models, Nick?
The models of Gigantics? I don't know that one. But
yeah. So apparently Gigantics was a fairly popular toy in like the early 70s.
Model kit.
Model kit.
Okay.
And it was basically they had like giant monsters, a spider and a praying mantis, and basically they were set up in sort of a city that had been destroyed. Well, when he told me about this, I thought that what he wanted me to do was draw an actual scene from the Gigantics model. And apparently what he wanted me to do was draw a scene with King Taraxian that sort of looked like something that may have come from the Gigantics model.
Keep talking.
But I actually drew the model. Do you have that picture around?
Yeah, that's the model. You ever seen these, Nick?
I have never
AMC
seen those.
re-released them in '96. This is from 1975. It's I think what they, honest to God, I think what they were was a company was going to put out these like nature models of insects, and they did a wasp, they did a mantis, a scorpion, and a spider. And I think the guys upstairs went, no, let's make them monsters. So you look at the monster or the spider, it looks like a normal spider, except for all the destruction going on around it, you know?
Yeah, it'll
So this
sell
is
more.
What we're talking about the Gigantic series.
Yeah, so when he explained this to me, I thought that what he wanted me to do was actually draw the model. So I did,
Uh-huh.
right? Well, apparently he only meant for me to draw something that sort of vaguely resembled this. And so when he got this picture, he was like, oh no.
Look, what was easier?
So I talked him into changing the book to favor my drawing.
Yeah, so instead of the line, instead of looking at the monster doing it in the image, resembling it, one of the I don't remember which character, one of the characters vividly remembers a model kit he had as a child and how the scene of the spider reminded him so much of it.
Okay.
It worked pretty well.
Well, all right.
So,
Yeah.
So you know, all I guess I'm saying is that I think for the most part it was great and effortless, but every once in a while there were a handful of misunderstandings. But it seems like some of those ended up stronger because of it.
Yeah.
I thought it worked really well.
Mhm.
And to tell you the truth, and Alan's really good about this, and Scott is too. And I'm throwing them both under the bus because both these gentlemen have a little bit more to do with Big in Japan than people think. I remember when I did my first authors panel with Neil and Skip, and at G-Fest, and every time I talk about the book, I would say, instead of I would always say we. And Skip finally goes, you keep saying we. Would you have like 12 people write this book? And then, I told him about Alan. I'll tell you something Alan did. Alan came up with the idea of having a giant cowboy for the monster. I named him the Duke, but Alan, that was his idea. Let's have a giant cowboy instead of having a Japanese shogun or a Japanese warrior. Since the Duke is an American-made robot, let's have him emphasize America's history. Hence the Duke and the cowboy.
Yeah.
That was his Big Al right here.
Awesome. Yeah, you got your John Wayne fans there satisfied by that too, right?
Yeah, that's I gotta tell you, that's how we work together, and it's not just on that, and it's not always one person with one idea. There's both obviously I cannot draw like Alan, obviously. But a lot of times it's a concept or an idea, and there's no set thing. It's not like I give him an illustration and he makes it better. We have ideas for different illustrations together, different concepts of the story.
Exactly.
So it's a bigger flow than people might think. And Scott, oh my gosh, he what started is Scott letting me use his likeness in the book has turned into, he's one of my best friends on the planet now, and it's just amazing to his contributions to what he's done, and I'm going to let him talk about a lot of that too, and I want him to fill in on a lot of stuff that we're doing with Scott and a lot of other things that he's doing, because he's the busiest guy on the planet. But I definitely want him to tell you about Polaris and some of the other ideas that he has for Big in Japan in his own kaiju.
And real quick before we go to Scott, one more thing for Alan, and then let's get Scott in there. So it's just a curiosity for me personally, thinking about your cover art, because of course in the book you've got your monochrome, right? Because you can only deal with the black and white, but you got the chance to be to go with a color palette on the covers of both books. Your palette here versus your palette for book 2, I love the fact that they're different, and that we get we get a lot of cool, your yellows, blacks, some reds in there. What were you thinking of going with the new? I see obviously some green.
Yeah, Tim and I actually had a long conversation about color palette when we started this, and I basically told him that the reason that I went with the yellow, orange, and red kind of thing on the first book, more than anything, was because I feel like that's sort of a classic color palette, and I think a really good almost sepia kind of idea for introducing an idea, especially if you wanted to feel classic right off the bat. And I told him also that a lot of times book covers tend to look a little bit more classic and stable if they're monochromatic, like you're describing.
Yep.
So I definitely, for most book covers that I do try to stick with something that's unified color palette wise, and if I do have a color other than the monochrome look, it's specifically to draw highlight. So for example, on the new cover, it's mostly a green palette, but I do have some red in there in order to help some ideas pop. He wanted Mount Fuji to be clear, so I have Mount Fuji surrounded with a hint of red. The band is almost de-emphasized on this cover, but I wanted them to be represented, so I've got a little smidgen of red behind them.
Very cool.
And then, of course, King Draxion has a lot of red behind him to make sure that your eye gravitates towards him. But the rest of the book is this green palette. And when Tim and I were talking about power,
Yep.
We basically had two ideas about color scheme for power, and the concept was either red for power, or green because of the specific power source and how it would glow.
There's the power source in the first book. It's a power source created by Takarada's character. It's called organic thorium. And the power in this book is basically the power source of organic thorium, which is kind of that kaiju green. You know what I mean? You see those great kaiju-looking greens sometimes. So, and like Alan was saying, we were kind of going back and forth on if we wanted red to symbolize power because it's a powerful, it's a power color, or if we wanted green, and we just decided green was the good way to go.
Yeah, my feeling on it actually is that green is easier on the eyes than red is, and so red for drawing emphasis in particular areas is stronger than making an entire book out of red. Although we can certainly do it, and I can certainly point to good examples of it having been done. Red is just a really, really powerful color, and sometimes overwhelms other elements on the page. Yeah. So we eventually decided that green was the right way to go.
And of course,
that's really astute of you to notice that we even had that thought. Thank you so much.
Well, you can
give it to Scott. This is Alan's rendition of Takarada in the story, which I think looks fabulous. And this is a great picture of Scott that I really like. This is when he's in the head of the robot, and they see him coming out of the core from inside the middle of the cockpit. And that's sort of like when Scott makes his first appearance in the second book.
Very cool.
I'm sorry, you had one more question?
Oh, it's just, I was just kind of commenting on the fact that you could overthink it entirely, or you could start putting things together and say, it's working. And it kind of feels like that's kind of the process. A lot of the times I'll do that with editing too. It's like, I really don't know what I'm going to get into until I start getting my hands on the tools, and then it's like,
absolutely.
And then I'll back off and say, no, it's not, or it is working. So it's like kind of throwing things up against the wall. But yes, very good. I love it. I think it really catches the eye, and it makes it more than just I think the word that Tim used, illustrated novel versus just a novel, just black and white text.
Yeah, right.
This adds a measure of excitement to it, and you get to get into your guys' head as to what you guys were thinking of. What in the world were you guys thinking of? Oh, there it is. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we got the conversations about that on the first book. And it's become the norm now for the whole novelized series.
Perfect.
Well, now I think you
Yeah.
probably want to talk to Scott about...
We saved the best for last.
Let's get Scott in there. There he is. All right. Now, Scott, of course, you've got... What does it feel like to not just have, of course, the M11 legacy, but you have a character in Tim's book that is...
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I'm very pleased with the whole thing. The way this started, I've been watching the first book, the second book. I've known Tim for quite a while, but I never thought about putting anything that I created myself in the book. But a couple of years ago, on the 60th anniversary of Godzilla, we did an event in Tokyo, and Kawakita, the director, special effects director, and myself were special guests at the 60th anniversary. And the 68 years in Japan is a very big thing in Japan. It's bigger than 50 years anniversary type thing. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into it, but it's a long story. I mean, I look at it. Look at that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. He's going to wear it for something. I'm not going to tell you about that.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a long story, but it was a very special event for Godzilla. Very special. A lot of emotions. Godzilla turning 60 years old is a huge thing in Japan. It's bigger than the 50th anniversary of anything for the Japanese. 60 is the big number. But and so Kawakita and I were signing autographs. We got done with the first session. They were showing 3 movies the whole night. And, I thought he was going to go home early, but he decided he wanted to stick it out because it was the 60th anniversary. So we sat in the behind the scenes, or behind the big screen, and we sat in a room and we talked. And Kaneko, who was from the Gamera trilogy, and Nakano, who they call was Mr. Dynamite or whatever, one of the big explosions and stuff, they were there as well. And they just kind of went over their own corner, and Kawakita and I talked. And we talked for probably 9 hours straight. And he just basically started talking about the love that he has for the genre and things. And maybe he thought somewhere, because he was kind of ill over the last couple of years, that he was getting close to his time. I don't know. Looking, hindsight, looking at it, maybe he did think something like that. But he looked at me and he said, there's a lot of people out there who are a lot of fans, even in a lot of countries and stuff like that. But a lot of the fans, a lot of the people these days, even, I won't mention the company's name, but the big company who makes all these kaijus, they don't really get it anymore either, is what he said. And he says, we need to hand this off. We need to hand the torch off to people who really understand both cultures, who speak the languages and stuff like this. I said, something's coming towards me, isn't it? But he basically handed the torch over to me and said, look, we need people like you. You seem to, you've been with us for a long time. You do all this stuff for the fans and stuff. We need someone like you to help spearhead new things, to keep the genre strong and going, to create new ideas and stuff. And I take things I'm always laughing and making fun of things, but I do take things very seriously.
What an honor that is.
Yeah, it's a real honor. Not most people know about it, but in fact, his wife called me after he passed away, and she wanted me to remember the promise, and not in a harsh way or anything like that. She just says, I hope you understand that was coming from his heart. He's a very strict person, but and I understood. We were talking in Japanese, and he didn't have to talk to me for 9 hours, but we did, and it was very good. It was something that I needed to connect myself more to the genre. Anyway, something new, keep the power going. I had been at Sundance a couple years before that, and with actually Elizabeth Olsen, who was in the Godzilla movie, for her breakout movie from a friend of mine who produced it. And so I met Robert Redford and all the indies makers and stuff like that. And I thought, man, that's pretty cool too. And then when Tim, started writing his second book, I said, there's got to be something I can do to make this work. And I've got all the people around me who make these things for a living, the figures, the posters, even the great artists, and seeing how Alan's done so well. I like the first book too, but I really like the second cover a lot. And Tim,
I'm the same way. You want to say that without hurting his feelings.
Yeah,
because the first one's great.
It's great, but the
second one's better.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, so the timing was there. I could keep my promise to Kawakita, and I needed to create something new. And I just had this, this idea in my head for quite a long time, actually, now that I thought about it. But I've never been a designer. I'm not a good illustrator. I like taking pictures with cameras, and that's about it. But I came up with Polaris kind of out of the blue, but it was because I was hanging around with all these Godzilla art type people, these people that make figures and stuff like that. And I knew that they had this original cowboy in their movie and stuff like that. But I said, man, wouldn't it be great to have an original kaiju in their book as well? And so the timing was just there. It was kind of like, killing two birds with one stone. I could add something new to the genre. Emmy Levin creates his own kaiju this time, so that's kind of cool, and then I kind of create more interest for the fans as well. It's not just being Emmy Levin, but someone who's really thinking outside the box and behind the scenes as well. And so the timing was perfect, and these two and I have been friends for quite a while, and it just fits. And again, then I had the stick figure type of thing. I don't write. I wrote like the foot that that Tim wrote, and then Alan comes up with this great piece here, and this is just amazing. And so it's kind of gotten the Japanese excited as well, because I'm living in Japan. I just made the figure with a company that I will have at G-Fest. It's all made in Japan. It's all handmade. It's all hand painted. It took almost a month to make it.
Show your drawing.
This is my original drawing.
An original Scotch.
Like Kermit the Frog. Hasn't got much to eat,
Yeah.
And they got it at the bar. It's what he did with it.
Show them your figure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got to see the figure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here it is in a box. So this is the. Where is it?
There you go.
This is is kanji, a Japanese kanji that basically says the Antarctic kaiju, Dai kaiju, and Polaris, and then it has it in English as well. And it does say Scott and Cast is the name of the company. Scott and Cast Creation with a K. Creation for Kaiju K.
Yeah.
And so, and this is my first shot at this basically, and it's a full figure. It even has holes in the neck so that they could actually have a guy inside.
That's awesome.
So it's very well detailed. I think that people will be very happy with it. But that, in a nutshell, that was it. I had an idea, and I had two guys that who could help me make my idea come true. But actually, and the people in Japan who helped me put the figure together as well. And then the fans, the main reason I go back to G-Fest every year is for the fans, and that's it. I like to meet the fans who come every year. I like to meet the new ones. I love the stories that we hear, and then having something new to show, and us being in control of it is kind of fun for me. It's just and getting a lot of information and ideas from other people who want to do their own thing too. And when they say, "Man, you did that, I want to do something like that too," now you've got the next generation thinking about the next generation of kaiju.
Yeah,
which I love.
And now with a new kaiju that you had the conception from, you had the ideas in your head, you probably had, so many ideas of origin stories, and I know you've come up with one for Polaris. Kind of tell us where that drew inspiration from.
Well, the first thing about Polaris is that he's an eco-friendly kaiju.
Yeah.
Got nothing against Godzilla. I love him to death, but he was a mistake, a human's mate. And we still have all those problems in the world even now, and I'm sure Shin Godzilla will touch on that as well in the movie as well. All the things that are going on in the world still with those kind of problems. Mine is eco-friendly. He may be a freak of nature, but he's a natural freak of nature. He was born and raised in the harshest environment in the world, which is the Antarctic. So it's also, even though there's ice, there's the driest place in the world. And so, people go there here to die because it's so dry there. And so it makes a great story like that. The other thing is, and I just want to hint on this just a little bit, I don't want to give away, actually, because I've got a lot of ideas of things that are going to progress from here. But I was on a radio program called the Pangea Club many years ago. We brought the whole world together through a live radio program. It was a live 3-hour program, and we talked to probably 60 countries over the 3-year period. We talked to when they had Scud missiles flying into where was it? Into Iraq. We had friends in Israel who were being bombed, and then all the kindness of the world, and people trying to care for each other too. So we got a very big dramatic 3 years out of live feed from people, just average people that we met through the radio waves, and it was great. But Pangaea is the original one continent that is now broken up into 7 continents, and so my feeling is that at the one time, I kind of get like the American Indians who think there's a spirit in everything, in a stone and everything else. I really like that kind of stuff, and so my feeling is that Pangaea had a spirit of it, and it's been broken up, but now there's a guardian of these these continents and stuff like that. And so that's where my concept came from, and talking to Alan and Tim about this as well, and my friends at CAST and other friends in Japan who've done all this. I could become a bridge for something that I think would be very cool, and I can also throw out Japanese and English at the same time, which means everybody will be learning, because everybody knows what sushi means now. Everybody knows what kaiju means now, thanks to Pacific Rim probably in the beginning. And so it's now English. And so I can throw out words that I like in Japanese that I think should be English and put them into a manga or anything else that I want to do to, make the world a little bit smaller.
Okay.
And that's probably one of my ultimate goals. And so the education of the people through kaiju manga, it might be pretty cool. So.
Yeah. But you're not just taking, something in a lot of ways, the origin that you were thinking of. It kind of seems to me like you wanted to leave a little mystery out there, which you still want to leave us, so that we're still interested in knowing more and more and more, keeping us chomping at the bit and keeping us coming back for more. And you've also kind of got it, it sounds very mythological and spiritual, where, a lot of other monsters, it's just science and nature. Sometimes you can get away from that, and even Godzilla, even GMK comes to mind when you think of you think of some of the spiritual aspects of things, and like the Heisei Gamera series too. Connections beyond just science and nature, things that are unexplainable.
And I think next to Tsuburai Kawakido is the next big idea man that has been there, and so helping to keep his spirit alive too. I will put his spirit into some of this stuff too, and so. And with my friends here on the American side, my friends on the Japanese side, I hope that it's a good mixture that creates something that everybody's going to like. So it's cool. And we're in talks of taking Tim's first book and translating it into Japanese as well. So lots of interesting things going on here, buddy.
And so we'll still call it big in Japan and sell it in Japan. And
when we had our first. Our first event here a couple of days ago, I had a shirt on that said, "I'm huge in Japan."
Hey, huge is bigger.
Huge is bigger, so I might cross out big and write huge next time. So.
The third one's going to be called Huger in Japan.
Huger, something.
Yeah, but anyway, that's in a nutshell. We just work really well together. I'm working on my second CD right now, thanks to these guys as well, and it's been a lot faster than the first one, a lot more smoother, and like Alan's art, I think my songs are even better this time. And so it's just all really good. We're just really clicking. We're in a groove right now, and this is the place to really a lot of things started and going. And it's fun.
But like anything creative, you hope you do in your own heart and mind and soul. You hope that you advance to the next level every time. You feel like I'm doing better every time, at least to yourself personally. The public can say what they want, but to yourself, it really is satisfying to say, I took what I know from the first one, and this is what I'm doing with it as I go along. So, and you
just like this.
Yes, it just evolves. It's it's got to start. It's got to start small somewhere, So, make sure you sign that and see if you can frame it and sell it. Somebody's got to bite,
Yeah. Well, maybe when I die, I think it'll be worth something.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I've given you the chance to talk a little about some of the efforts that are going along with Polaris and some other things. Tell me about G-Fest coming up here very quickly. Hopefully I can get this on YouTube so everyone can see it. What can we expect from Scott at G-Fest?
Scott's gonna be Emmy Levin's gonna be running around doing a lot of sessions.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm translating for Bean Furia, for Sakurai, for Takarada, probably for Ishii, and then I'll be doing a session with you, Nick, on the 25th anniversary of my movie, and then I will be doing something that talks about everything that's going on in Japan now and things like that. So it's going to be very. I mean, the guests are amazing. It's going to be very. This is a good G-Fest to go to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to see our panel with the 25th anniversary, not just because I want to shamelessly plug it, but because between talking with you, I think we have something that people haven't heard before, stories to tell that they haven't that they haven't gotten in the past. Very cool. All right. Well, we've plugged G-Fest. I want to give any of you guys the chance to plug anything else that's either going on that may be of interest to some of our viewers and listeners out there.
Do you want to start?
Sure. Well, we've got, of course, G-Fest coming up. We'll be there all weekend long. Of course, Scott, I don't even have to mention he'll be there. He's always an honored guest, and we're fortunate to get to hang out with them. We have a lot of fun. Alan and I will be there in the dealer's room, actually, with the new Big in Japan book and the first novel as well, and some other Big in Japan stuff. And I'll let Alan tell you what he will have. But we have a Big in Japan panel with Scott and Alan and myself on Friday at 4. And then for me, I will be at MetaCon, which is Minneapolis's big anime con, first week of September, and representing Big in Japan. And then I'll be going down to Atlanta in October to a convention called Monsterama, and Alan will be joining me there, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And really quick, you can get both Big in Japan novels. You can get them on Amazon, Amazon.com. However, both Alan and Scott have graciously told me that they'd be happy to sign any books. So if you would like to order before Scott goes back to Japan, he's going to sign a few extra for me. And this is all out of the goodness of his heart. He's going to sign a few extra books for me. So if you want to get Big in Japan book 1 or 2 from the Big in Japan website at www.biginjapanrocks.com, you can get books that will be signed by Scott, Allen, and myself directly to you. So
Okay.
That's what we got coming up. And Alan?
So first of all, I host a podcast called The Legion of Lethargic Super Geeks. You can find us at thelegionoflethargicsupergeeks.com. You have to have the V in there, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to get you on the show. Maybe you and I can get together and talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I can get together and talk about something at G-Fest if you have a second.
Absolutely.
Boy, man, two great guys working together.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. What I mostly do on the Legion is talk about sci-fi and fantasy novels and comics and movies. So maybe we can find something that you and I would like to chat about. It would be fun.
Absolutely. Love to be on there. And you can find it on the website. Mention it again.
Absolutely. thelegionoflethargicsupergeeks.com.
Okay.
And the other podcast that I do is a really, really super short one. It's called In Process. And basically what I do there is I do time-lapse drawings. So the drawing that you saw earlier of Polaris is my most recent episode. So, I don't update it very often, maybe once every couple of months. But you can actually see me draw that from start to finish, from design concept to finished inked work in about a minute and a half. So, that one's a lot of fun for me to do, but I don't have any co-hosts or anything.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet, that's right. I'm going to have Tim on to draw something in time-lapse very soon.
Yeah.
There you go. That was good.
I could draw this in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
The other thing that I'm going to have at G-Fest is I do have some poster-sized prints of some of the illustrations from Big in Japan. But in addition to that, I've got two Yeah, there you go. Thank you. I've got two comic book projects that I'd like to mention real fast. One of them is actually, Tim is amazing at writing about the guitar player and the singer of the band, but I'm a bass player, and he has not given the bass player in the band her own book yet.
You are the bass player.
And I'm about to correct that. So I've got a 20-page one-shot comic book coming out very shortly, featuring Olivia Olivetti, the bass player from Big in Japan.
Nice.
Alan was my idea for the bass player. The bass player's original name was Oliver, which is part of when you talk about Alan O.W. The O stands for Oliver, but the public, God bless them, they wanted a chick, so Oliver became Olivia.
When Alan shaves his legs, he looks pretty good.
He looks just like her.
So the other comic book project that I've got going on right now is called Wondercat, and Wondercat is a modern version of the Tick. He's a really bad superhero. Spoon. Yeah.
I love it.
He's a really bad superhero, and he's always trying to impress his on-again, off-again girlfriend, Police Commissioner Jordan, by
I never picked up on that.
Commissioner
Jordan.
Yes. By solving what nefarious criminal is responsible for the heat wave in their hometown in the middle of summer.
Okay.
So it's a lot of fun. I'm doing it in collaboration with my buddy BC Thompson, who lives in Australia. So apparently I do all of my collaboration over Skype. Between
Not limited to.
between Scott in Japan and Tim in Minnesota,
And you in Hong Kong.
me in Hong Kong, and Ben in
Australia.
Australia. Yeah, apparently I don't like working with people who are right next to me.
No, yeah.
But so, all right.
Yeah.
But Wondercat, the first issue is available on Amazon Kindle right now. You can get a physical copy from me at any of the cons. The next issue should be coming out in about 2 weeks. It's only going to be a 3-issue thing right now. But Ben has written many Wondercat stories. I just can't draw them all in 1 year. So that's where we're at with Wondercat.
Great.
I think that is everything that I need to tell you
And
about.
Scott's CD, which we've been working very hard on.
I'm going to let Scott talk about
Yeah.
that. Before I do, alan@wbarnes.com is my website, and it's the hub where you can get to everything else I just talked about.
Gotcha. All right.
Oh, it's me again.
Yep.
Hello.
Yeah. Tell us how we can get a hold of the CD, and tell us a little about the CD if you wouldn't mind.
This CD is it's got a theme of Christmas actually in it. Most of the songs are written Christmas-ish, but R&B type. Basically songs that give you a good feeling, but you can listen to them all year around, even though some of the themes are about Christmas. And it's just some feelings that I had to write certain songs, and we did so well on the first one, and wanted to do another one. And so, for now, you can only get them. They're not done yet, but we hope to have a few that we can sell at G-Fest, and then I will be online, Facebook, and set up a web page to sell them online after that.
How many people do you think that are a fan of Ben11 know Scott? Scott is a fabulous songwriter, and I mean I want him to tell you, but I think that's a side of him some people know, and they're getting, the fans, are getting to know a little bit better, but he's worked with some big names in Japan. I'll let him tell you about it, but I want to make sure he lets you know, so I'm throwing him under the bus a little bit, but he's a very gifted songwriter, and boy, you should hear him on this CD. He sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Let's see.
It's thanks to these guys. And
Yeah,
I'm a doer and not much of a talker when it comes to myself. But I've worked with a number of people. A thing that happened last year, I taught Paul McCartney Japanese when he came to he came to play in front of 50,000 people in Osaka, and they needed someone to take care of him for a while. And I was just there for a little while, but so you want to do something really cool, you should introduce yourself in Japanese, and or just say one phrase, and we're really around them. No, we don't want to teach him Osaka dialect. I said, yes, you do. It's Osaka. And so I just taught him one phrase. Maido okini is what I told him. It means, thank you, everybody, for every time you're with me, basically is what it means. But it's just very simple. Maido okini, and all the Osakans will go crazy. No, you don't want to teach him that, but he went out there and did it anyway, and 50,000 people went crazy.
Yeah.
And so, just I've been able to meet a lot of these really big people. I'm not much of a fan of anyone unless I respect them. I've met professional baseball players. I've translated, not to brag, I've translated for Tiger Woods, for Donald Trump once, for his book, actually, for Richard Branson, who's the Virgin billionaire, for Bon Jovi, for a lot of these famous singers, a lot of these famous, not politicians, but business people as well. And the one thing I found that I like most about the ones that I like are that I can respect them in one way or another. And so I love Bon Jovi because of the way John's put his band together and things like that. In Japan, I've been able to work with some of the number one R&B singers named Masaki Ueda. He's sung with B.B. King, the Eagles. 4 years ago, he went to Indonesia and he sold 20 million CDs.
Really?
And I don't know many famous American singers who can do that well. But anyway, and so I've written about 20 songs with him. I've written a number of things. I have some songs that are in commercials and theme songs, all kinds of stuff. It's just, I don't mean to even, I sound like I'm bragging, but I enjoy what I'm doing. And Tim's kind of thrown me under the bus, but I found that I do have a knack of writing good lyrics, and I'm getting better at the guitar thanks to these guys, and I'm actually singing better because of these guys too. And this second CD is actually, my voice is a lot better than the first one, I think. But
it's like the book, you don't want to say the first one was bad, but this is a lot better.
Yeah, it's a lot better, all in all. And so it's taken a lot less time, actually, because we've been able to put it together so quickly, and my voice has lasted. And you can hear it, it's still really strong now, and that's what it's all about. But anyway, I love music, I love kaiju, I love all this stuff, and be able to put it all together. I have a lot of projects ready for music as well, and you'll see what goes on. We'll have to talk again at the end of this year. Something big is going to happen to me, and I don't really want to talk about it now. But when it happens, I'll make sure you find out, and possibly the whole world will find out. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Leave us with a little mystery, like your kaiju there, so we can
like my book, like Polaris. You'll get to see his face now. That's about it so far.
Yeah, there you go. But
back to you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, Robert Scott, man of many talents. So I want to start bringing this to a close here, guys, and I really appreciate your time, and we're looking forward
thanks, Nick.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, thank you.
And
it's so fun to talk to you because it's just like talking to a friend over coffee,
Yeah. Well, it's even better. We're going to have the chance to do that here at G-Fest in just days from now, as the time of this taping, this recording over Skype. So what's great about that is now then, of course, we can start sharing ideas, talking like Scott did with Kawakita for 9 hours or however long it takes, and just enjoying the creative outlets that we all love, and at a great place like Chicago there. So looking forward to that. Thank you for all your contributions to the fandom, the book, and the illustrations that we get to see in it, the music, everything that's come together for this. And I know you feel blessed just being able to have the opportunities you've had to work with each other, to get this material out there for us, and it's just fantastic. So thank you all for your time. Appreciate it, and we're going to see you guys all at G-Fest. Check out their panels, check out the websites, biginjapanrocks.com. That's where you want to start, definitely. Check out the podcasts as well. And follow Scott on Facebook, because I know he loves to put out some material for everyone to see, hear, and enjoy. So, and follow these guys. I'm sure you can find them out there on social media, and just type in their names: Tim Price, Alan O.W. Barnes, and Robert Scott Field. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Monster Report.
See you soon, man.
All right, and thank you guys for another great episode of the Monster Report. We'll catch you later.